Welcome, everybody. It's nice that we are going to be today learning something more just before our Diwali vacations is on our way. Quickly, just let's see that we are able to use our chat box because we're going to be keeping it more and more interactive. Give me a thumbs up or a show of sign, thumbs up that you're able to hear me well. Perfect. So now if I go further, we are here going to be talking about what is going to be the entry strategy in India. As the name suggests, that we are going to be talking about people who wants to come and set up businesses in India. Every businesses that they want to set up come in with different objectives. So that's going to be our agenda for the day. Let us understand how and why people want to come into India, what kind of businesses do they want to set up, what are the various ways in which they can set these businesses, what are the tax implications, reporting requirements, winding up, winding up procedures, is there any kind of compliance that is a must, and every kind of practical insight into each of these routes that are available. When should we use those routes? This is all what we're going to be covering in this next 60 minutes. Feel free to post in your questions in the chat box and the Q&A. We will take it up as and when the question is being discussed. So now the first point, we're all professionals here. So we need to understand everything that we're talking, why we are talking, and what is in it for us when we're going to be talking about those stuff. So this is a data which has been pulled out from the FLA census. FLA, if you will be aware, is one of the forms that is required to be filed by the companies who have received foreign inward remittances. At the same time, the companies which have done outward remittances, even they need to file FLAs. So FLA is a kind of an indicative number which helps us understand how many such transactions have happened over the course of time. So if you can see numbers here, what we can see is in all 36,000 entities are such which has either taken inward or outward or both in terms of investment in India and outside India. So this numbers tells us the amount of scope is there for us, and furthermore that is going to be coming up in India in the future. As all of us are aware that Modi ji is working on Make in India concept, and more companies are coming into India, setting up their manufacturing units also. Though glitches in this manufacturing unit, Apple being the recent case, wherein I'm sure you must be aware, and if you're reading the news, that how there was a breakdown in the Apple's manufacturing unit and a lot of issues developed because of that. So definitely our manufacturing sector, our supply chain is requiring a lot of revamping to attract more and more FDI. But nevertheless, today also, there are a lot of countries and a lot of sectors which attract FDI. So let us understand who are those sectors, or what are those sectors and countries which come to India, which are interested in coming to India and setting up their businesses. As the statistics says, USA is one of the countries which contribute almost 16-17% of the funds flowing into India, followed by Mauritius and Singapore. Netherlands is another country which is again climbing up the ladder very quickly, both in terms of FDI and ODI. And the another area which attracts more and more FDI is obviously the service sector. Service sector even today contributes nearly 50% to our GDP, and 42% of the fund that is attracted in India, service sector is the area which is attracted. Definitely, 50% is still being contributed by the manufacturing sector. And as I said, that this area is the hot area, or the area which is further more attractive from the FDI perspective. Beyond this, there is a small percentage which is being taken over by electricity, gas, and other areas, but a major contributor being the manufacturing sector. Now, it's very important, and we'll spend some time here on this slide, is understanding what are those reasons why would any company want to come into India. uh, let's use the chat box and throw some light on what do you think, why would any company want to come into India, and let us understand that because of India's positioning at the global level, the inclination and the interest of any global brand wanting to come into India is increasing. In that scenario, if you are the founder, director, or a management core member of that company, what would be your thought process and what would be that you would want to know before entering into India? So Akshay is saying because of cheap labor, people want to come into India. Lower cost base, large supply of cheap labor, large consumer market. Very well said, Indrani. India has a very huge consumer base for both, as a huge young crowd, which can act as a labor as well, a human resource availability, and at the same time, a huge consumer base for consumption of the goods also. Shantanu says it is easier compliances to set up businesses. I will say, Shantanu, yes, we have developed a lot more ease in doing businesses, but yet, compared to the global index of ease of doing businesses, India's ranking is still way low. There is a lot more scope for us to improve. Definitely, ease of doing businesses India is a factor which contributes to their decision making of okay, it's manageable to do business in India, and hence let's go ahead and do it, but not the core reason to come into India. So Akshay says employees' work time is more compared to other countries. Yes, true to an extent. Obviously, not comparable with Japan, which has much higher work culture, work hours. Knowledge base and growing economy. Yes, absolutely true, Anand Tirth. A very growing economy. Today, I would rather say it that for any global brand, if they want to really call themselves as global and want to capture a large chunk of the businesses, they have to be present in India. But when you as a management team or a leader of a corporate who wants to enter India, the first thing that you will have to do and would want to do is the market analysis, market mapping, market sizing, understanding the uh, understanding the type of the consumer that is there, what are the other competitors that are present, what is the kind of a setup, what are the kinds of compliances that you will require, basically the regulatory overview. So everything under the market analysis and a point of view of expansion from commercial perspective is what people would want to know before they decide to come to India. A lot of businesses may choose to say that okay, for the initial couple of years or for an initial phase, we would like to have our businesses from outside India, but we may want to have a communication or a channel partner in India who is going to be identifying the potential vendors, doing the study, connecting with the government and other agencies, trying and building the back end supply chain. There is also a possibility that people say that, okay, I want to come into India. I have a clear idea about the market. I'm very sure it can do it. Let me identify partners. I don't want to myself do in India because everywhere you need a local partner. That may be the strategy of the company. And they say that, yes, let me identify a local partner who can be my strategic investor, operational executor. And that strategic alliance is what I'm looking forward to, like the example of Starbucks, being the local partner being Tata for the entire project. And it may also happen that, okay, you want to identify the cost, benchmark the resource availability, whether it matches with your standards and all. So all of this are a few points that any corporate leadership team has to dwell upon and arrive at a conclusion before they decide to come into India. So now, as a consultant, if we are getting any inquiry from any foreign person who wants to come into India, our first question to the person would be to ask them, why do you want to come into India? What is your objective or purpose of coming into India? Because in India, there are many structures or many different variety of entity structures that are available beyond the normal entity structure of private limited companies and LLPs that we have spoken. Under FEMA, for such companies who want to come into India, there is variety of structures available, but each structure would serve a different purpose, and hence it will be important for us to know the reason for the client coming into India so that accordingly we can suggest them. So now, as we concluded that yes, there are a variety of structures. So let's understand what are those structures that are available. So one, somebody says that, okay, I want to myself come into India and do the business, and I don't need any local partner. Then for them, the entity structure that is available is a wholly owned subsidiary. The foreign company can come into India, create a step down subsidiary of the holding company, and the structure is ready. Similar can be a structure which is a LLP. You can form a limited liability partnership firm, create a structure into India, and do the business. Another structure possible is a joint venture. The company says, no, I don't want to do it on my own. I need a local partner. Let's get into a collaborative arrangement, create a JV or a joint venture. Let's do business together. This is one of the ways of doing. And there are restrictions and allowability under each of the structures which vary. The second option can be that the foreign company says, I am at a nascent stage. I want to do my research. I want to analyze what are the market and then maybe take a call rather than going all in into the company. In that case, they have options of opening up a liaison office or a branch office or a project office. The other two options, as India, we have other two options of doing business. One can be a partnership firm. The other can be a one-person company or, say, for example, a proprietorship concern. The objective here is to understand I, as a solo who is doing business, let's take it here as a proprietorship concern. Now, the law, FEMA is governed by RBI and it is governed by a FEMA Act and FEMA rules and regulations and notifications. So FEMA is very clear that partnership firms and proprietorship. See, under proprietorship, obviously there is no opportunity for getting an investment in doing business. And similarly, a foreign company cannot set up a proprietorship firm here and do business. So obviously that is a cross, a no-no. The other option that is available is a partnership firm. Then can I open a partnership firm and do business in India? Come on, guys, let's choose the chat box and tell me what do you think. I said that yes. In an LLP, I've already mentioned that yes, under an LLP, you can bring in funds, open up an entity structure as an LLP and do business. But can they do so under a partnership firm? Okay, I am getting an audience poll of completely no, no, no. So I cannot go against the audience poll and I will agree to what the audience says that yes, under the FEMA guidelines, you cannot invest or set up a partnership structure to do business in India under any foreign company coming up. So the structures that are open are the first three structures, as we said. Indian company kholo, JV karo, usme boss karo, or you open a LLP, or you can come in as a foreign company, which can be a liaison or a branch or a project office. ठीक है, इतना तो समझ गया. These are the structures which are available. But now let's understand कि हर एक structure में क्या restrictions है, क्या limitations है, and what can be done. But before we go into it, let's quickly revise ourselves and our knowledge with respect to the entity structures of a private public company, OPCs and LLPs, and a basic understanding of under FEMA also what is it that is required. So as we rightly know, private company, we need 2 people, public 7, OPC 1, LLP, any 2 person can do it. There is restrictions on maximum numbers. Directors की भी limitation है. Compulsory under FEMA, you need 1 mandatory resident director. Even if it's a private company, public company, LLP, you need a 1 resident director as a designated partner. You are allowed to, issue shares to the foreign entity, but there are pricing guidelines, there are regulatory reforms, all of which needs to be taken into account. Again, the question comes up that can a foreign person who can they take managerial remuneration? Then FEMA उसके laws अपने अलग बताते हैं कि yes, you want to remit funds outside India for a person who is giving their services in India, then you can pay them remuneration, you can pay them director fees, but there are few conditions and few restrictions. And obviously, India में tax due भरो, उसके बाद ही आप वो payments कर सकते हो. But yes, you're allowed to do that. uh, what are the conditions we need to comply, whether it's a private, public, or OPC or LLP. Again, as I said here, private company, public company, and LLP, these are the three structures which are available for us if we want to go into a JV or a WAS structure for setting up the entity in India. And the compliances with respect to Companies Act, SEBI, or Income Tax Act are over and above the compliances that you need to fulfill for FEMA or the RBI Act. Income tax, SEBI, और Companies Act के जितने भी forms है, जितने भी compliances है, have to definitely be complied with. Now we come to the understanding कि okay, so LO, BO and PO, which is liaison office, branch office or project office. अगर मुझे, when are those circumstances when this makes sense? Because as we said कि अगर आपकी private limited company है, JV है, WAS है, in that there is no restrictions to the number of activities you can do. यानी manufacturing कर सकते हो. Yes, there are restrictions in terms of sectors, and वो sectors में क्या allowed and not allowed उसके restrictions है. But in terms of activity, let's say you can do all types of activities if they are allowed within those sectors. But when we come to, say, for example, if a client tells you that, Madam, I am only looking for, doing a market analysis, understanding what is the market in India, get my market research in place, have a communication or a channel partner, and just promote my business or bring awareness about my product into India. In that case, if they have that restrictive vision, in that case, you do not need to advise them to have a JV or a WAS. In such circumstances, you can always open a liaison office. So what is permitted under a liaison office is, liaison office can act as a channel of communication between the parent and the Indian company, promote business, bring product awareness, facilitate any kind of a technical or a collaboration that is there, get into market research, and represent the parent company here for any kind of a PR that they want to manage. Anything beyond this, if they want to do, then it is outside the scope of LO and you will not be allowed to. There are furthermore restrictions to what LO can do, but right now the understanding with respect to what is permitted under LO, for what business activity, if the client wants to do, we can or we should suggest LO, is what we are discussing. Second is a branch office. Now, what happens if a client tells you that, Madam, we want to open business in India, but we are not interested in one more compliance factor or having one more entity to take care of. We are happy to come into India as our own. In that case, they can have a branch office in India in which they can earn income in India. They can conduct the business operation. Only thing they cannot do is they cannot undertake manufacturing activity. No, they can do. They can act as an extension to the parent company, do trading of the services, provide services, even if they want to hire people. Everything is permitted, but they cannot do manufacturing activity. That is what is restricted for the HO, I would say. And then the third case is that somebody says, hey, I have been allotted some kind of a project in India, which also happens a lot of time, which is some kind of an infra project or some kind of a technical project which has been allotted to any foreign person, and they need to bring in their expertise and skills and execute that project in India. And post that, they are just winding up and leaving. In that case, they need not open a LO, BO, or the entire JV or a WAS. They can just come in into India, set up a project office, take permission, do the work that they are allocated, and then just go away. Obviously, there are again restrictions to what all you can do, the timeline, and we'll discuss all of it. So as we said, permitted activities, we discussed that, most of the cases LO में क्या allowed है. LO is more like, you do it when you want to do more of a market research. BO is a situation when you want to actually do it but don't want to set up a company. Project office is only restricted to some specific project that you want to execute within a timeline and then just move off. But again, uh, it is, you will require to get permissions, and you'll require to have that contract in hand to be able to do it. And for WOS and LLP, you're permitted to do all kinds of business activities under the sectors where RBI has allowed you. कि हाँ ये sectors में foreigners can come and do business in India or set up businesses in India. There are a few sectors जहाँ पे आरबीआई बोलता है कि भाई हमको इसमें कोई फॉरेन का इंटरफेरेंस नहीं चाहिए, और जहां पे आरबीआई बोलता है कि यस allowed to come in but उतना ही करो जितना permitted. In those sectors we will have to adhere to those guidelines and go ahead and do it. So Rahul has a question: for an Indian subsidiary which provided only IT back office service to its parent company, will that be a BO? So Rahul, as I said, आपने ही आपके question में there is a contradiction. When you are saying for an Indian subsidiary, now the literal meaning of the word subsidiary means it's a private limited company, the shares of which are owned by the foreign company, in which case it is called as a subsidiary. So मैंने जो WOS और JV, which is WOS का full form is wholly owned subsidiary, and JV means a subsidiary which is not wholly owned but a partially owned by me. So I'm calling it as a JV. So Rahul, if I reread your question is for a JV, which is, or a WOS, which provided only IT back office service to its parent company, will that be a branch office? As I said, if it's a subsidiary, it's not a branch office because the conditions to open a branch office are very different than for a PO or a WOS or a JV. Let's go into that question so it will make things more clear, Rahul. अगर मुझे ब्रांच ऑफिस खोलना है, इट डजंट मीन कि मैंने जेवी बनाई या सब्सिडियरी बनाई वो और ब्रांच ऑफिस सेम है. इट इज सेपरेट लीगल एंटिटी. ये पांचों के पांचों आर डिफरेंट एंटिटीज. लाइक लियाजन ऑफिस is something you are, if you want to open, if a foreign person wants to open a liaison office in India, he needs to have a profit making track record for last 3 years. He needs to have a net worth which is not less than 50,000 USD or its equivalent. If he wants to open a branch office, he needs to have a profit record of 5 years and a net worth of not less than 100,000 US dollars. So, and if you want to go ahead and open just a JV or a WOS, there is no such requirement. So these are separate entities. If you want to go ahead and open a branch office, you will have to go ahead and you'll have to go ahead and decide, and the process, the application, all of it are also very, very different. Now, when you go in for, say, LLP, again, there is no requirement that you need to have some kind of a net worth or a capability to come into India and set up an LLP or a WOS or a JV, which is there when you want to open a project office or a liaison office. Sorry, not project, but a branch office or a liaison office. Again, if you want to open a WOS or a LLP, there is no timeline. It has what do you call, unlimited status. जो हम companies को बोलते हैं कि they go on and then they share a longer duration. I'm missing on the word, but what I'm trying to say is that the existence of the company is beyond perpetual existence. I'm sorry, I was losing on the word. WOS, JV, LLP. LLP is that will that they get closed, and this one was perpetual existence. Yes, Naresh and Balram, thank you, Parth. Going concern. Yes, I was missing on that word. So yes, so WOS, JV, those are all perpetual existence and going concern. Whereas branch or liaison office, they come with a life of validity. Like in liaison office, you get a 3 years of validity, and then post that, then again another period of 2 years, because the concept and the logic that says that at maximum 5 साल में तो आपका research हो ही जाना चाहिए, and you should be done with it to be moving forward. You cannot just remain as a liaison office in India. Similar, प्रोजेक्ट ऑफिस खोलना है तो उसकी लिमिटेशन है कि टेन्योर है प्रोजेक्ट का, खत्म करो और मूव आउट ऑफ इंडिया. When you go in for a LO or a BO, again, there is approvals when it comes to liaison office, which says that prior approval is required. if you go in for a liaison or a branch office, all you need is ऐसे नहीं कि खोल दिया और बाद में you are going and informing RBI about the same. You will have to have before you have to take approvals from them before you go ahead and open a liaison office in India. In fact, even the case is true even for a branch office. But whereas it comes to a boss or a JV, or a LLP, there is post approval. Most of the times, when your sector is, say, automatic sector, you don't need to have a pre approval, you need to have a post approval wherein you will go and take the post approval. Even branch offices, there is no unlimited status for a branch office. There is a timeline within which a branch office has to start its operations, and a timeline wherein they have renewals for, okay, hum branch office kar rahe hain. Now, when we move further, there is a timeline that is there for the setup of these activities. Like if you're opening a liaison office or a branch office, then it usually takes around 6 to 8 weeks. And mind you, this 6 to 8 weeks is the prescribed timeline. Okay. Over our practical experiences, what we have seen is liaison office and branch offices can take up much more timelines than 6 to 8 weeks to get into incorporated. A project office 4 weeks, or a WAS or a JV can take up to say 8 weeks to be able to come into existence. Here, as I said, your company will come into formation, and then you have to put in funds into India. Post that, you go in for compliances, and that's how it will be a timeline wherein you are doing those compliances. Post the money is coming, and it's the post approval, not the pre approval, especially in the automatic sector. Now, a very important condition beyond the beyond the area which was the intention of why the person wants to come into India, there is many more important aspect that needs to be looked upon, is especially the tax rate. So see, now when we said liaison office, we said that you're only doing a market research. If you're only doing a market research, there is no income that you're making into India. And in that case, you will not require to pay any taxes in India because there is no income in India. But when it comes to branch office, it is something very similar to a foreign company. And in that case, it will be considered as a foreign company because you are an extension of the foreign company, and you will have a 40% tax rate. In fact, what also happens is all the liabilities and the risk that the branch office will be adhered to in India falls upon to the foreign company, because it's an extension, it's a part of your own arm, right? Project office, again 40% tax. WAS or JV, अगर आप इंडिया में है एंड सेपरेट, तो it will be taxed at 25%. Normal Companies Act का जो rate है same. LLP again at 30%. So taxation also plays an important role when determining what they should open in India, because it is cheaper. Liability plays an important role because WAS and JV can have a liability. It's a separate legal entity. Liability of India does not fall over the global company, though to an extent brand gets affected, no doubt about that. But lawsuits of India can be restricted to India, whereas if it's branch office, the lawsuits of global gets impacted. Then if it's on to the LLP, then in that case, again, it is restrictive in India. So tax rates, timelines, as we mentioned, that also plays an important role in determining what entity structure we should be opening up. The third one is, yes, there are compliances into whatever we plan to do. LO khologe, then also you have compliances that needs to be taken into account. Sonia, if there is a change in the tax rate, I will definitely get back and change the presentation connecting to my tax team. I am an expert in FEMA, not in tax, but I definitely understand that yes, there is a difference in the tax rate between the two. I would appreciate your point and acknowledge if I have made an error on the same. Annual filings, you will have to have a filing with respect to LO, BO, and PO, which is an annual activity certificate. Whereas if it goes to a project office or a WAS, there are separate filings that you need to do in that case as well. Again, winding up, all requires winding up. One, you'll have to go to the AD bankers, because when you even incorporate an LOBO or PO via the AD bankers, you need to take approvals, need to take UINs and start operations. Whereas you go in for a WAS or a JV, it is the NCLT order, as normal as how we do our winding up here, that becomes important. Now, based on all of this, we realize that yes, there are various ways in which the nature is different, the restrictions are different, what is allowed, not allowed is also again different, and how do you determine which to do? And there is one more thing, the timelines. As I said, that LOBO practically, agar hum dekhe, to kai bar it takes around 3 to 4 months also to actually get approvals and get running. In that case, what we've seen is, this is the statistics shared by one of our friends who did the compilation, and he realized that over the past years, earlier the number of LO and BO coming to India were more, but because of the compliances, hassles, and India's FDI opening up to companies is much better in a lot of aspects from the investor perspective. The number of LOBOs that have got registered over the past year has come down drastically. These are the numbers which are absolute numbers. So if you look at the year 2024, one of the statistics said that there is only 8 registrations that have happened for LO and BOs put together. Even in 23, there's as less as 13. So the number has come down to single digit over the past year for registrations of LO and BO for the various reasons that we spoke of. And if that reasons are true, as we see, and the investors are more and more keen towards setting up companies, which can be, as I said, a JB or a WAS or an LLP, then it is important for us that let us understand what are those structures and routes, and where it is allowed, how it is allowed when you want to set up a business in India using the FDI route in companies or LLPs. So first of all, the provisions which govern this is the non-debt instrument rules, which we also call it as the NDI. And uh, and due to yes, Narendra, due to lined up compliances, yes, it is very, very true. There is so much of compliances for renewals also that comes up over the period. And what I also believe is, if liaison office they were doing market research and all, uh, it is very cheap when it is very clear that you cannot neglect India as a global market, or as a market, or as a consumer market for your company. You have to set up. Then why going by a two route of opening up a liaison office and then a JV? People would prefer to have a JV or a WAS in place for a first 3 months, 6 months, or in fact, we have seen companies where companies have burnt money, foreign companies have burnt money to penetrate into Indian markets for as long as 7 to 8 years. Their financials have always been in red for 8, 10 years at a stretch in line, because they're penetrating into the market, understanding the Indian consumer, uh, deviating or pivoting their products, making them more market fit as per the Indian consumers. But all of that can be done by setting up a LLP or a WAS in India too. So when we want to now say, after all this discussion of say 37 to 40 minutes, that we are clear that okay, company and LLP structures are the two viable structures for coming into India from majority perspective. Then in that case, the next question would be, okay, now I want to come into through these rules. What are the rules and regulations that I need to look into? And how am I supposed to determine that whether there are any conditions, or how do we do it? So again, as I said, the sector is divided into automatic and government route. Again, based on the sector, there are few which is automatic up to a particular sector or a particular holding, beyond which it becomes government approval, and similarly vice versa. Sub permutation combination government ne diya hai, and they are open to all of it. So let's understand all of it. As I said, if it is under an automatic route, say for example, service sector. Okay, all the service sectors are under automatic route. In which case, if I am taking any foreign investment into as equity into my organization, I don't need to go to RBI for any kind of an approval or a government for any kind of an approval. The money flows into my account and then I will intimate RBI. So that is called as automatic. Secondly, there is timeline within which I need to intimate. And third, there is also process becomes too faster because I don't need to really wait for approvals to get things done. Vis-a-vis, there are few sectors, like example, telecom, जहाँ पे there is still government approval required if you want to invest into those sectors. This is a few list of indicative list of the sectors like mining, IT, financial services, construction development, manufacturing, where automatic routes is considered and you are allowed to invest. Government being like, titanium mining, broadcasting or content, print media, in which you require RBI approval or government approval to be very specific to be able to invest in these sectors. And there are sectors where even today RBI and the government, in consonance with each other, have come to a conclusion that we don't want any foreign money to be flowing into this sectors. So one is the agriculture sector or the atomic energy, lottery, gambling, betting, chit fund, nidhi, TDR, cigar, cigarettes. These are all the areas which are considered as the negative list, wherein no foreign company is allowed to invest into. Beyond the sector, of late, there is one thing very important also to be required to be understood is the press note 3, which is any company who wants to come into India and set up business in India, and they are the companies who are residing into a land bordering country, yani ki China ki company, and any Chinese or a Chinese company or an even Chinese resident wants to come into India and set up a business in India, or forget about setting up, even wants to reinvest or increase his investment into any of his existing investment in India, then after a release of Press Note 3, which was triggered by COVID, they are permitted only by government approval, irrespective of the sector in which they are investing. The core objective, I'm sure you guys have understood, that they don't want कि COVID का फायदा उठा के, the neighboring countries are taking the advantage, and hence all the land bordering companies is what they've spoken. But to my understanding, the major concern and the major inquiries also that you would receive is from China. Narendra has a question is why agriculture sector in the negative list? My understanding to that, Narendra, is that agriculture still contributes a major amount to the Indian economy. Secondly, again, agriculture sector does not mean allied activities are not allowed. Animal husbandry is allowed. Agriculture में आप seeds और ये सब कुछ बेचना चाहते हो, that is allowed. But per se, if you want to get into farming and all those stuff, you're not allowed. In fact, forget about the companies. Even a non-resident Indian, which means there is an Indian who's been outside India for more than 180 days, or some Indian who is of Indian origin but residing outside India or has dual citizenship, OCI card holder or so, even those people are not allowed to acquire or own or retain an agricultural property in India. It is only and only permitted to be held by an Indian resident. Agriculture activity abhi bhi hum bahut band hai, and as I said, contributes a good portion to the Indian GDP. FDI is still not permitted directly into that sector, but nevertheless, allied sectors which contribute to the agriculture are yet allowed. Now, saying this, we need to now move on to understanding what is a wholly owned subsidiary. Wholly owned subsidiary means a sector which is a permitted sector. 100% investment in that sector is permitted. The parent would be owning all the shares of that Indian company. It can be a private company or a public company. Tax will be paid in India. Whatever dividends is after payment of due taxes, they can take back the money. So it is repatriable. Whatever income they make after paying taxes in India, they can take it back. Akshaya, your question is agri products allowed. I'm very sorry, I am not able to understand the meaning of the word agri products. You need to be more specific to be able to help you with it. Second, as I said, what is a JV? JV is something wherein it's in partnership. There are Indian individuals or Indian company which together come up with a foreign company and they are owning a share in the Indian entity. In such cases, the ownership can be divided, but yet sectoral caps, wherever 100% FDI is permitted, it will go under automatic. If there are sectoral caps, then such sectoral caps needs to be adhered to. Now, if you go to the LLP, under LLP, there is a restriction that FDI is permitted only in those sectors under automatic route where there are no performance-linked conditions. Like, for example, there are few uh, sectors. Like, let me give you an example of uh, construction. Okay, construction and development. Now, construction and development as a sector has restriction, has conditions to what they can do. This is something which they have to do. Such conditions, when mentioned, they are considered as performance-linked conditions. And hence, if there is an LLP, the main business of that LLP is say construction and development, then FDI cannot flow into that LLP. In that case, FDI can flow into a company which is doing construction and development activity, provided they fulfill all those conditions. But since the sector has conditions attached to it, FDI cannot flow into LLP entity structure doing the same business. I hope I have made myself very clear because this is very, very important. Downstream investments is permitted in both the structures. The meaning of downstream investment is that the foreign company puts in money into the Indian company. This Indian company further invests into any step down subsidiary of that Indian company, which can be a private limited company, and all the conditions of sector compliances still needs to be adhered to. Something which is not allowed directly is not allowed indirectly also. So Akshay has a question. Business with agriculture is a negative list, but can a company engaged in agri products will be permitted? So Akshay, under agriculture, there are so there is no restriction as such as on products. There are restrictions on sectors. What I would suggest is if you have any live query which you need to resolve on, refer to the FDI policy. Under the FDI policy, all those sectors and areas which have restrictions have been specifically mentioned. And if you will look into your sector, compare it with those, you will be in a better position to answer. To answer to your question in a very generic manner, the answer would be agri products allowed, but we need to understand what exactly you will be doing under the agri products to be positioned to categorize the sector and hence the sectoral limits applicable, if any. Now, these are again touch basing upon those areas or the sectors where it is not allowed: gambling, betting, lottery, chit fund, nidhi funds, where all of this is not allowed. Okay, and let's give you a case study, and then we can open the floor for last 10 minutes for any questions that come in. What happened is there is a foreign company, XYZ Limited, and they wanted to invest into a pharma company, pharma industry, which was based out of Delhi, but it was a partnership firm. Now they wanted to acquire it. Now, this Delhi-based firm was into manufacturing of daily home care essentials, but the pharma company was into the foreign company was a pharma background key company. They wanted to invest into a Delhi-based partnership firm which was into manufacturing of home care essentials, daily home care essentials. The question was for us, the first question that came to us from that foreign investor was, is this transaction allowed under FEMA? The second question, we look up at the second stage. First, let's use the chat box and answer the question, is this allowed under FEMA? Okay, Akshay says no, Sandeep says no, Jivika says no. Okay, again, I need to go with the uh, audience. Okay, I have a few different answers as well. Vincent says foreign company cannot under FEMA, NR can invest, and Vaidyananda says allowed. Okay, let me say here. See, we in the beginning only we said that entity structure. Since the entity structure is partnership firm, it is not allowed. Had the sector, there is no restriction as such in terms of the sector. Yes, sector it is allowed, but in terms of partnership firm, it is not allowed. Sandeep is saying, how can there be equity capital into partnerships? Absolutely true. Sandeep, there cannot be equity capital. The understanding of the foreign partner or the foreign company in this respect was to they want to own the company, and hence they were considering it as equity capital. But from the Indian law perspective, it is not allowed under the partnership form as entity structure, but can be done via converting. So what we advised this foreign company was that we can convert the partnership firm into an LLP, and then you can invest into the LLP because the sector in which the business was being done was into automatic and allowed route. The second question, the first question was the actual question which we had faced from one of our foreign, I think he was from US, a US based client. The second question is a question which we have created is, can NR means a non-resident, invest in the partnership firm? Can a non-resident invest in the partnership firm? Akshay says yes. Indirectly, yes. I don't know what is the meaning indirectly, Sandeep. Harsh says no. Naresh says yes. Yes and no. So at 50 yes, 50 no, I'm just loving it. We have one yes, one no. Okay, let's make it a little more dramatic. We have more of no's and a less of yes as of now. Okay, yes or no का equivalent हो रहा है. We will just wait for another 10 seconds to be able to decide. So Sandeep says can invest in LLP, and then LLP can become partner in the JV. Sandeep, don't make stories. We are saying investment in partnership firm, not LLP. और अगर आप स्ट्रक्चर कर रहे हो, दिमाग अच्छा जा रहा है, स्ट्रक्चर कर रहे हो, still how can LLP become a partner in JV? Which JV are we speaking? And if we really wanted to go into a company structure, directly NR can go into company structure too. No need to go in such a via route. Yes, Rahul, the LLP and partnership is different. And NR, a non-resident, if he wants to invest into a partnership firm, then he can only and only invest on a non-repatriation basis, which means once he invests the funds into India, he cannot take back the funds out of India. They remain in India on a non-repat basis only. Uh, but if an NR wants to invest into an LLP, they can be on a repatriable basis. It will be termed as FDI in LLP. All the things that we discuss with respect to sectors, pricing guidelines, valuation requirements, all of that will apply, and sectoral conditions, all of this will apply and do it. Harsh says, so practically no NR will invest. No, Harsh, that is not the case. In fact, we have practically seen a lot of NR investing into partnership firms on non-repatriation basis. Reason is, one, they intend to come back to India, and hence they don't mind if their funds are blocked into India because they're any which way is making money. That is point number one. Point number two, we have seen that even though the amount is on non-repat basis, there are ways in which the NR ultimately takes back the money outside India using the 1 million US dollar route. And by that route, they are able, yes, by NR, I mean the non-resident Indian, they are able to invest in the partnership firm, and they do so. When it comes to a foreign company, yes, a foreign company has no opportunity, no scope of investing in the partnership firm by whatever means said and done. Can salary and profits of the partnership be repatriated? The answer is no. Profits cannot be repatriated because, as I said, everything will remain in India only. Anantir says, in case of a JV, can a foreign entity partner with individuals? In case of a JV, can a foreign entity partner with individuals, or it must form JV only with another company or LLP? No, Anand Tirtha. It can be, when we say a JV, it can be an Indian resident with a foreign company forming together a company. It can be Indian resident with foreign residents forming company together, or it can be Indian company with foreign company. All of these permutation combinations will still be said and considered as a JV structure for India perspective. So we are opening the floor for Q&A for next 5 minutes. Feel free to post in any questions. This is a link to this QR code is a link to a WhatsApp group, which wherein we professionals are part of it, and we post our queries relating to tax and FEMA, and we help each other solve issues. Feel free to join the group. It's a curated group. Once you put in your request to joining in, admin of the group will connect to you, send in a form, take in a few details, and post that. She will or they will add you to the WhatsApp group. So if you wish to join, please feel free to scan the QR code and put in a request for joining. Meanwhile, we can take up the questions that are coming in the chat box and the Q&A. What are the conditions and restrictions on repatriations on said alternatives by foreign entity? If you're opening a JV or an LLP, you are allowed to repatriate all the funds that you make in India. Means, for example, if you're making profits, you have paid taxes on it, you can take back the money as dividend. You can take back the money as on liquidation. Both the cases, options are open, and you can take up to full amount that you want, provided you have paid taxes in India. Same is the case with LLP. Can one WAS issue its shares to another WAS where both are foreign owned? What are the FEMA restrictions? Akshi, very primary point is a WAS is a company which is whose shares are held by one parent company. So, for example, Akshi is owning the shares of Y, then Y will be called as wholly owned subsidiary of X. The moment Y shares are held by Z and X both, it won't be called as a wholly owned subsidiary. It can still be called as a JV, and definitely X and Z can be part of the same company, but yet it won't be called as boss. So I think you will have to rephrase your questions to be able to help you answer your query. One question is, can one WAS issue? Okay, I think we've answered this. Please be more specific. We'll be able to happy to help you. If a NRI wants to make, Jitendra is asking, if an NRI wants to make investment from NRO account, which is a non-repatriable basis, do we need to check entry route or performance linked conditions? No, Jitendra. If the NRI is investing from his NRO account, which is a non-resident ordinary account, and the investment is going to be a non-repat basis, then the investment is deemed to be a domestic investment, in which case you don't need to have any FEMA compliances in place. Just have on record a document which says that this is foreign, this investment or this investment is on non-repat basis. In that case, you won't require any FEMA conditions. None of it will apply to you. Okay. Sandeep is asking, recently some Chinese companies have been allowed to invest into India. Is there a relaxation of Press Note 3? No, Sandeep, there is no relaxation of Press Note 3. In fact, there is a addition in Press Note 3, wherein even ESOPs that are issued by and to such companies, when the receiver is a foreign Chinese employee or something, there are restrictions that have come up now on that as well. There is no relaxation, but see, Press Note 3 is putting it as an approval route. It is not completely saying not allowed. It is saying come via the approval route. Recently, what has happened is Government of India has started giving approvals, but that is still very, very, very low and a very, very slow pace. My practical experience has been that, in fact, initially for 2 years, the file was not even moving. Now I can say, chalo, file move. That is what we have seen practically. Aishwardan says the session was amazing, madam. Thank you so much. I'm happy. I'm glad that I can add value. Yes, PPT would be shared to you with from the Taxmann team. In case of LLP, share of profit is exempt from tax in the hands-on partners. Are there any restrictions on repatriation of such share of profit under FEMA? Again, once you have paid taxes in India, post that if you're repatriating, there is no restrictions. You are allowed to repatriate. You will have to do compliance. Means you may be asked 15 CACB at the time of remittance, but nothing stops you from remitting. Actually, more specific, if one foreign owned and controlled company can issue shares to another foreign owned and controlled company. One foreign owned and controlled company issue shares to another. Yeah, Akshi, I don't see a reason why not. Okay, Harsh is saying if stocks are issued pursuant to cashless RSU offered to an Indian resident individual by a foreign company under the old ODI regulation, is there any compliance to be undertaken by the individual as per new regulations? The individual is working in Indian company. Akshay, ODI, yeah, there are separate rules regulations which apply to ODI. Currently, we are focusing on FDI perspective. What are the ways to repatriate for a partnership from where NR has invested? If NR has invested, there is no question of repatriation. The money will go in his NRO account. From his NRO account, if he wants to use the 1 million USD scheme and he's able to withdraw, he can do so. Can a resident parent deposit INR into his child's NRO and NRE account in India? It can be considered as gift. And if the resident parent wants to gift money to his child, be it in his NRO or NRE account, the LRS limits will apply to the parent, which is 2,50,000 USD for one financial year. Within that limitations, he can do so. In fact, a lot of residents, when it comes to children's education going abroad, they are doing all of this stuff. Thank you. Thank you so much. Very happy, glad that you guys liked it. Couple of more questions, we can take it up and then maybe we can end. If there is any more questions, feel free to post it. If an investment is on non-repat basis, can RBI approval be sought to repat the investment? Technically, no, because RBI has not given any such permissions to do so. But if you feel that you should be allowed repatriation, no harm in trying as well. But technically, there is no permission. There is no doors which RBI has kept open. Okay, iske liye aap aao. What kind of compliances are needed to transfer the proceeds to foreign company as a part of voluntary liquidation? Once you have the NCLT order for liquidation and you are aware that, okay, your transaction is getting completed, you have NCLT order to be able to take place. There is no more. You will have to go to the AD banker, inform the ADA banker about the transaction being done, and they will go ahead and remit the funds based on the NCLT order and 15 CACB showcasing that yes, all the taxes and new compliances have been paid. So that is not a trouble. That can be done and arranged.